Terminator. A word that invokes mental images of technology, metal, and war. And of course, nostalgia. Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 Judgment Day are some of the earliest movie memories I have. My 4-year-old mind was blown when my dad and I went to our local Blockbuster to rent the first Terminator movie, which did an amazing job of hyping me up for Terminator 2 Judgment Day back in 1991. I even dressed up as Arnold Schwarzenegger from the first movie the day my dad took me to go see Terminator 2. Needless to say, these movies had a major influence on me and why I'm so in love with the sci-fi genre to this day. So thank you, Father. And as we all know, the Terminator franchise has more or less fallen off in recent years as a result of being milked for every penny that the series can still produce, with the latest entry being Terminator I don't care. I'm telling you all of this because if you couldn't tell from the video title, I'm reviewing the new Terminator Resistance game, and I wanted to make it very clear that this series to me, at least the first two movies, hold a very special place in my heart. So having not a clue that there was a new Terminator game being released for consoles and PC, you could say I was a wee bit excited. And I'm happy to report that after beating this game, my excitement was well warranted. And never fear, this review will be spoiler free, and I'm going to be referring to the game as TR from here on out. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic 2028 Los Angeles, where players take on the role of Jacob Rivers, a soldier in the Resistance led by John Connor against Skynet. When I first started playing this game, I was pleasantly surprised at how much it reminded me of Fallout 3. With endless things to find on the ground and pick up that are called trade resources such as bars of soap, pills, cigarettes, water, and other things that act as the game's currency for buying ammo, med packs, explosives, weapons, and lockpicks. So if you're a huge fan of games that are on the collect-a-thon end of the spectrum, then you're definitely going to enjoy this game. One of the things that I was not expecting to be in this game was a crafting system. Yeah, whenever you kill an enemy or find stuff on the ground, like metal scraps or spare parts, you can use those to craft items in your inventory, so if you don't want to spend all of your trade resources on ammo or weapons, you can use this method to gain some of those items back. The inner workings of this game is not a far cry from RPG elements, with every enemy you kill and every quest that you complete giving you XP points that level up your character. And for every level that you gain, you'll be rewarded a skill point which you can spend on different passive abilities via a skill tree. The skill tree is made up of 3 different paths. Within each path, there are 3 different abilities which you can spec into. The 3 main paths consist of combat, science, and survival. The combat path focusing on stealth, weapon proficiencies, and explosives. The science path focuses on lockpicking, crafting, and hacking. And finally, the survival path, which focuses on more backpack space, toughness, and fast learning to get more XP whenever you complete quests or kill enemies. So having all the different options to pick and choose from makes character progression really enjoyable, though eventually you'll max out all of these, so I guess in the end it doesn't really matter what you start with because you'll end with everything maxed out. In total, I want to say there's at least 14 or 15 different weapons that you'll eventually have at your disposal. Though one of the things that I found that was somewhat annoying was when you reach a certain point in the game, your non-plasma weapons become obsolete because Terminators can't be killed by normal guns. Which, yes, I get it, it makes sense, but once you get your first plasma weapon, there's really no reason to go back and use any of your standard guns. It's a minor complaint, but whatever. Every enemy in the game will drop a chip that you can equip to your weapons that are compatible with chip upgrades. These will beef up your plasma weapons with upgrades such as improved stability, clip capacity, and increased damage output. I found myself doing this only when I found a new gun that didn't have chips already installed on them. It's a nice little feature but was seldom used during my playthrough. TR's story progression is comprised of main quests and side quests given by NPCs, the latter of which will have you running to different locations to find specific items for one of the characters, which in turn will yield XP and building trust with each NPC. One of the key aspects in TR is its decision making. At first it didn't really feel like it had much impact, but one of the quest chains gave me 2 choices that resulted in an important character being killed. Now I'm not 100% certain as to what would have happened if I chose the other decision, but the game has multiple endings, all of which are a culmination of the choices you make throughout the story. So I'm just gonna let you know right now, your decisions actually kind of matter. typically on my first playthrough of a game that gives me an option for not necessarily moral alignment, but decisions that affect the outcome of the game. I always try and go for the worst possible decisions to get the quote-unquote bad ending. The balance between combat and stealth is very flexible. More often than not, you can avoid combat by using your goggles to see Terminators through walls and sneaking around accordingly, because all the enemies have detection meters that will trigger the longer you're in their field of vision. Normally the way I play games is run in and shoot anything that moves, but you can't always do that in this game, which makes things incredibly intense when you're in close quarters with multiple Terminators. And the music that plays whenever enemies are around really intensifies that terror and dread. But Terminators aren't the only machine you come face to face with. There's also HK tanks, spider scouts, armored drones, and many more. And there's even some cameo Easter eggs in here. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I'd rather you find them for yourself and be just as excited and giddy as I was. So before I continue talking about how awesome this game is, I'm going to tell you guys a couple of things that kind of annoyed me in this game, in addition to the few things that I've already stated earlier. It's really just me nitpicking, which I kind of have to do. I'm reviewing a game, so everything can't be 100% awesome as much as I want it to be. Anyway, I don't know if it was just me, but every now and then while I was playing the game, I kept getting stuck on clutter on the ground. I could move the camera around every which way, but I wouldn't move from the spot I was standing in, which made things extremely frustrating when I'm trying to avoid getting shot by enemies in the heat of battle. Next, although the maps are fairly large, there isn't much diversity within each area. And yes, I know the game mostly takes place in downtown LA and Pasadena, with a couple levels being in the Hollywood Hills, but it just started to get a little bit stale visually. Mind you, the game's graphics are stunning, especially when you crank the graphics up to max, but the color palette is 50 Shades of Grey. Shut up. And yes, I know that this is an apocalypse still and everything's just destroyed, but nitpicking, what can I say? The voice acting in this game isn't amazing, but it's good enough to keep me invested in what people are talking about, though some of the side characters at times just seem kind of pointless and are only there to pad out the gameplay with side quests. But I did still enjoy somewhat the relationship building between them and learning more about the characters through finding notes within the world that can be archived and read whenever you want. Overall, TR's gameplay isn't groundbreaking, but it doesn't need to be. You'll slowly understand how the game connects with the first two movies in a brilliant way. It hits all of the familiar notes that I've come to love over my years of gaming. There's very few bugs, the frame rate's really good, shooting guns is very satisfying, it's chunky, and you can really feel your shots connecting with the enemy, which is super important in an FPS. The game took me about 10 hours to complete, and that's only doing a handful of the side quests, so you could probably tack on another 5 hours and it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility if you were to do all the side quests. And on top of that, there's massive incentive to come back and play this again because of the multiple endings, so the replayability factor is there for sure. At the time that I'm recording this, I paid about $39.99 USD on Steam, and do I think it's worth it? Hell yeah, I think it's worth it. I would gladly pay full price for this, and I don't normally give ratings for my game reviews, but I feel like this game deserves it. So I give Terminator Resistance 4 T800s out of 5.
Hey, check this out. The biggest video of the year is here now.
Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
I'm Robert Patrick. In Terminator 2, I play the T-1000 prototype Terminator, the future's most fearsome machine, the most advanced, unstoppable, most technically perfect creation of all time, a force with no equals. And that description can be applied directly to Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the most spectacular film ever created. Being a part of a movie like Terminator 2 is the ultimate thrill for a performer. Now, Terminator 2 is about to become the ultimate performer for you. Have plenty of copies on hand because Live's TV ad campaign will have every renter awaiting street date. Get set for the biggest and most exciting event in the history of video. On behalf of Arnold, Linda, myself, and the entire Terminator 2 cast and crew, welcome to our team. We'll see you on video.
And thank you very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel because I do stuff like this all the time. And if you're a fan of the Terminator franchise or have played this game and loved it or hated it, let me know down below in the comments section. I'll see you guys next time in the Nerd Lair.